Our good buddy, who we had on a YouTube Overtime a couple of weeks ago, just came out with a preview of the Independents, which now includes your team in Washington State, and that is Bill Connolly. They are not technically members of the Mountain West, and so he's doing these like conference previews. Love reading Bill Connolly's stuff. He looks at all the numbers, projections, who's back, returning production, all that stuff, right? And so he did. I think he came out with one with the ACC today. So he's starting to roll through all these. This one was, Notre Dame, Oregon State, Washington State. Who are the other independents? UConn, UMass. I think that's about it. And he was looking at S&P projections of returning talent, what that means for chances to win, X amount of games this year. And there were some alarming numbers for Oregon State and Washington State. Not that we need a refresher on that, about how many guys they lost to the transfer portal. He writes, Wazoo got hit by transfers. Oregon State got wrecked by them. 9 Beaver starters entered the portal. In addition to those who had already run out of eligibility, you'll see below, they're in the nation's bottom 3 in returning production and are projected to fall out of the top 50 overall in the S&P+. Washington State is projected to stay approximately the same, which I was kind of surprised by.
Well, they weren't very good last year.
No, they weren't, but Cam Ward was a lot of the reason why I thought they were competitive in some games, and so losing the quarterback, I was curious how much that weighed. So he basically broke down odds of, percentage of winning games on the season. Oregon State's percentage, I don't know if this makes you feel good or bad, 91.3% to win 6 games. So a very, very...
So almost a lock to be a bowl team.
Very good chance to be a bowl team. Washington State is at 92, so just relatively slightly higher than you. In terms of returning production coming back for Oregon State and Washington State, 34.1% for Oregon State. That ranks 132nd in the country. And Washington State is at 54.8%, which is only good for 94th in the country. So obviously a lot of new pieces there, a lot of rebuild. We're going to have a ton of time to talk about this, but I was just curious now that we're into July, starting to talk about conference media days and what are expectations? What is a good season for Oregon State this year?
Well, one, I think they got wrecked because their win-loss might not show it. That was a 10-win roster.
Yeah.
That's a 10-win team that their coach bailed, and
if he's back, Aiden Childs is back, and Damian Martinez is back with this schedule, you're winning 10 games this year.
You are winning 10 games, and that seems like a pretty big ask of Trent Bray. They've had a lot of movement last couple days, too, in following some of what's going on behind the scenes at Oregon State. Expectations tough. I think when this all started forming of no conference and coach gone and guys departing, I think I said something on the air of just get to 8. Get to
8-4.
Be 8-4.
The projections of Connolly, by the way, sorry to cut you off, 7.5 on average is what his projections for wins count for this year.
If you're at 91% just running numbers saying 6 wins, 8's doable. I don't know if 8 will happen, but 8 is doable. My expectation, this is weird. I think expectations can vary in terms of what they mean. So, my expectation for Oregon is Big Ten title game appearance. Winning it is a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't get to it or they fall short, they lose a couple times to teams that are lesser than on the talent scale, those are different than expectation of, I think they need to win 8 games at Oregon State. I think it'd be very important for them to win 8 games.
Yeah, keep the momentum going,
keep
stability
it going,
as a program.
Make the fan base feel good, because right now, as supportive as they are on social media, I think they would really rally behind having an 8-win season. You'd feel a lot better about Trent Bray year 1 as a head coach, whereas right now there's a little bit of a question mark, right? He's never been a head coach. Win 8 games. And if you're at 91% lock to win 6 according to numbers, you have within your range, and the 7.5 thing to win 8. 8-4 or better, that's a great year for them.
Mm-hmm.
Year 1, post losing your conference, post losing your coach and all of your talent, you want to stay as relevant in the conversation as possible. I don't know if 8-4 puts them in the top 25 ranking, but it puts them on the bubble of it. And I think if you could do that, you'd go into year 2 with Bray, and you'd feel great. As long as you stay a relevant, non-joke of a program, you're giving yourself the best possible shot to morph into whatever college football's landscape will be in 2 years.
I think that's fair. He adds his favorite player to watch on this year's Oregon State team will be Jaden Robinson, the corner. He said throwing deep on Robinson works out about as well as throwing deep on Benjamin Morrison. Quarterbacks threw at least 20 yards downfield on Robinson 11 times last year. He allowed just 2 completions with 3 breakups. For that matter, he allowed only a 40% completion rate and a 39.6 QBR on any pass. Adds Kobe Singleton, newcomer, had 4 interceptions and 10 breakups of Liberty last year too, and that's a really impressive duo at corner. I think the biggest question I have about Bray, and this is true, and I remember saying this with Dan Lanning as well, when you're a defensive head coach, can you do it on the other side of the ball? Do you have the prowess to hire and we're big fans of Ryan Gunderson. He's a friend of the show. Hopefully we'll get him on at some point. What does your offense look like?
Yeah.
Because I know Trent Bray is a good defensive mind. You can make an argument the last couple of years defensively, that was their strength. That was the backbone of their team when they were winning and kind of pushing to compete in the conference. So I know what he can do on that side of the ball. It's a little bit different when you're the head guy and you're not quite as hands-on, but he's going to clearly still have a big role on that side of the football. Are you a Jimmy Lake and you hired a John Donovan and your offense is going to look like it's from 1982 and you can't score against Montana? Or are you going to be a guy that can unleash and find the right weapons and recruit the right players and fit a system and grow that side of the football? To me, what they do at quarterback with the 4 guys that are now still competing for a starting job, the new transfers and Bengo Branson back another year, that's the biggest question. I think that's what is going to determine. Do they hit that 8-win mark that you're talking about, or is this a 6-6 kind of year because your offense just flutters and you can't find an answer at the most important position on the field?
It's also a big concern or question I have as well for them. I would add, too, sometimes these guys get their first opportunity. I think you saw this with Jimmy Lake. I think this is part of what happened with Jimmy Lake. They get the first opportunity and they get stuck in the hubris of themselves.
Yep.
This like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. Look at me. I got this job. I've wanted this job. I earned this job. And you can certainly make a case he has earned the job. He's got the ties to the university, and as do a lot of guys on that coaching staff. Is he willing to pivot out if something's not happening? Or is he doubled down, no, I know what I'm doing, guy?
Yeah, we'll figure this out.
Sometimes that gets these first-time coaches in a lot of trouble, and I think that's the part for me that's fascinating is, are you in a dogfight? Random San Diego State, just as an example. Are you in a dogfight against the Aztecs, and are you going to pivot out of what's not working? Or are you going to double down, guy, and just not get out of your own way? I thought Jimmy Lake did that far too often, and I think that's what got him in trouble in his 1 year as the coach at UW. I'm hoping Bray is not that.
Yeah.
Be willing to eat a slice of humble pie.
Adapt. Yeah.
It can be good for you. And you know what? You grow and you learn from it, too. So I'm also interested in that, what the offense is, and then also how much he's going to have to be flexible as the head coach, because it's one thing to call defense. It's another to be in charge of the whole damn thing and be on that sidelines with the headset.
Yeah.
There's going to be a different vibe to it. No matter what he says, how prepared he is or isn't, it's going to be different when kickoff starts. And how much is he going to be willing to maybe get out of something that's not working versus doubling down and saying, no, this is what we do here at Oregon State. That gets you in trouble.
Really good write-up from Connolly on both Oregon State and Washington State. He says a good season wouldn't be a surprise for either. The S&P Plus gives them an average for Oregon State 7.5 wins, for Washington State 7.6 wins. So right in that range where you could pop a game or two and get to 9, or drop a game or two and not go to a bowl game. So you're right in that swing spot.
We have a listener, P1, saying $600 for spit. I need to ask the sperm bank for a raise.
From fart jars to college football. Welcome to Tuesday on The Fan.